once they fly down and they're off the roost, you got to hammer them pretty darn hard. From that point on, if you don't kill one early in the morning, it's almost nil the rest of the day. There's just not a lot of action the rest of the day. So you got to hammer them pretty hard, pretty early in first season. After that, it changes a little bit, and we could see it changing as the weather was warming up. If you've been turkey hunting for any period of time at all, once those woods green up and it gets solid, the gobbling goes to nothing and the calling really sucks, and it's just, there's a slow period in there where their world changes. They've been used to seeing 500 yards in the timber. Yep. Now they see 50. And I think it really does affect how you hunt them and how the turkey responds. One other time, Mark and I I guess we were in Texas. We were walking and there was a shelf of rock and we stepped down, and I swear to God, we stepped on a rattlesnake that was like 8 foot long. Fortunately, he was lethargic because it was so cold. But I mean to tell you, we jumped 4 foot straight. It was
get the blood pumping.
I'd never hunt again.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast, powered by DeerCast, and a little bit of First Form energy.
Some days a lot. Turkey season, that's a lot.
It really is, yeah. And these cans are big enough to where, like, I'll sip on one all morning.
All morning, like, it'll take me 2 days.
You got your straw going.
Right. Well, look, you don't want to see me wired.
I think I do.
Well, catch me with a little Tito's and First Form energy.
Like the children say, catch me outside. That's How about that?
You're Tim Schelsbeck.
Yes, and you're Matt Drury.
And we got a special
We've got adult supervision on the show today. Your dad, Terry Drury's on.
What's up, TVD?
You can use some supervision.
Yeah, well,
from time to time.
Some days more than others. Yeah. We had Fred on last week, Fred Zink, and we were... I don't know. I got a kick out of having him on because he has no filter. We were talking about the early days, like him starting his company and all that stuff. And it was pretty interesting to hear the story about how he stuck a bunch of his own money into making a ton of these decoys out of the gate. And then, I think Cabela's, they only bought like 400 or 800. And he went back and kind of, convinced him to buy some more. And I was like, what made you, go all in on yourself, just belief in yourself? And he's like, I had big balls.
That's Fred.
That's Fred.
What did he say about meeting Mark for the first time? He thought he was an accountant or something.
They're at a trade show. And he was like, it was him and, what's the... Terry, is it Grounds or what's the guy that Pat Tim? The guy that passed away.
Yeah.
And he said he was standing next to him and they look over and they see Mark and his hair was all slicked back and mustache and, fancy looking and
the glasses.
The glasses. And he put a mouth call in and I think Tim said something like, now that sounds like a real turkey over there. And that's when they walked up to him.
Yeah. I could imagine what Tim Grounds would have been saying back in the day.
Yeah. Well,
he's a semi-entertainer, with the Avian X and all that stuff. He's very flamboyant, very charismatic. I think Fred, as far as the industry goes, he's one of the sharpest guys in the industry. He's been around a long time. He's seen a lot of things come and go, seen a lot of people come and go. But Fred is a super, super guy. He's very passionate about the sport, whether it be waterfowl, turkey hunting, deer hunting. He's all in regardless what it is. So we love Fred, and I know him and Paradise are really good buddies. And I find Fred to be semi-entertaining.
Oh, he's funny, man.
It's funny you mentioned him because Forrest and I were talking on the way up. I was talking to him on the phone. And he was saying that he caught that podcast and he said, man, that was one of the best ones I've heard. It was really entertaining, really good. And I've said, well, that's
entertaining. Like, actually,
I think it had a lot to do with Fred.
Well, I'm sure it did. Because here's the common thread is that we're on all the other ones.
That's true.
And I think he enjoyed it because he's a waterfowl guy at heart. So he's always been, really enamored with Fred Zink over the years. So to hear Fred speak as openly as he does, I think that was nice for Forrest to hear it. So he was real complimentary about that show.
Yeah, it was a good one.
The interplay between waterfowlers and deer hunters is always an interesting one for me. It seems like there are very few, and Fred is the exception. You either do one or the other all in. It's hard to do both.
But he said he didn't deer hunt until his son got old enough and was interested.
Yeah,
he didn't
and then
really care about it. Then he got into it.
And I think Dice was pretty instrumental in keeping him interested and making it better.
Yeah, that's what he
Chris.
said.
Yeah.
But he was saying, he's like, deer and waterfowl. He's like, if it's a good deer day, it's a crappy waterfowl day, and vice versa. So he's like, it does work out where you want to do both. And we get asked about, I'm sure you have through the years, I'm sure Mark has, about, hey, join me, let's go on a duck hunt. And it's like, man, I'm so burnt out because of deer season. Like, I could care less about going on waking up at the ass crack of dawn to go to a duck hunt.
And usually the conditions are terrible.
Yeah, that's also not interesting.
Overcast, low ceiling,
but like
blistering
Bennett
cold.
and those guys, Timmy and Andrew and Aaron and all those guys, they love it, and there's usually one weekend where they go up, maybe they drew or they go up for a draw on one of the public lands in Missouri here. And but I think about how early they got to get up to go do that.
And set all the decoys out, and all that jazz, and good set of waders and blah, blah, blah. That's something we just never, I don't know if we just didn't have time or didn't make time, but we just never.
Have you ever gone?
Not really. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Now, in high school, we might have shot a few, but
opportunistic.
I don't know that it was the standard way of waterfowl hunting.
I see.
Do they have to be flying when you shoot them?
That's a matter of opinion, I think.
Yeah.
That was when we were little kids.
Yeah. different back then.
I count myself as lucky having moved to Missouri, because where I grew up in Illinois during the 80s, we just didn't have turkeys. I didn't know anyone that turkey hunted. I didn't grow up in the turkey hunting culture. And so 20 some years ago, we moved down to Missouri, met Ray I, and obviously like in the industry now. And I'm so glad that my kids get to experience turkey hunting culture from children on through. I feel like I missed out on like almost part of a lifetime of experience out in the woods.
And that's when you're a kid too, like those experiences of the gobbling and the spitting drum, and like that really kind of shakes you and sticks with your core.
Shooting a bird that's as big as you are.
Yeah. I'm sure Sophie, that's why she's so. I don't know if you saw it on Deercast or not.
I did. I sure did.
Video of those turkeys walking by Sophie between him and her.
That's pretty cool.
I mentioned it on the show last week. I loved it. That's one of my favorites.
Believe it or not, when we were youngsters, fall turkey hunting was really as popular as spring hunting was. So we kind of grew up more about fall turkey hunting back in the day, or as much as we did spring, and everybody did. Everybody fall turkey hunted back then.
Well, Ray I even talks about some of the old timers back then saying that spring turkey hunting was it wasn't sporting. Because they're gobbling, they're lovesick. They can't help but come to the call. Yeah. Hunt them like a man and hunt them in the fall.
It's such a different style, because when obviously deer hunting in the fall, you see them all the time and they're all kind of flocked up and pecking and just kind of walking their way through it. Just, I can't imagine hunting them during that period after knowing what hunting them in the spring is like. It's
very different.
Two different styles.
And
I'll tell you who used to really, really be avid about fall turkey hunting was Tad. Tad Brown used to be a big time fall hunter. And then they've, just kind of have fallen away, and nobody does it much anymore. And I think there's issues with the turkey numbers, turkey population, and so on and so forth. So now I think you'd get hammered if you shot one in the fall.
I don't know. I don't know if you would get hammered necessarily, but I don't think there's many fall birds that, we ought to look up the MDC
numbers,
numbers, but couple thousand maybe. I don't know if it's even that many.
Yeah, and even this past year they made that change where you don't automatically get those turkey tags whenever you buy your deer tags, which just cuts down on the opportunistic killing. Like you're sitting there and
I got a tag. Walks by. Boom.
Yeah. Which is, there's no comparison between maybe seeing a bird walk by you and you stick it with an arrow and you're deer hunting. That's like 5% of what turkey hunting really is. So I would be curious to know how many fewer turkeys were taken this past year, because people just didn't have, because I didn't buy extra tags. I didn't really care to.
Only one time. I know you've taken a few fall birds, but only one time I can remember actually taking a shot at one. And it's because Jeremy Bennett convinced me. He basically,
come on, man, you'd be cool if you do.
I was at your farm. He's like, come on, try it. And I was like, I don't want to. We're deer hunting. He finally stuck after it long enough. I'm like, all right. And I launch one and I miss it. He's like, oh, you missed it. And it stuck around. He's like, you got to try again. I think I shot at it like 3 times. And I'm like, all right, this was a bad idea. And I'll never do this again.
A constellation of glowing knocks on the ground.
Yeah.
One thing that always amazes me is how quickly they pick you off in a tree.
Oh,
you can be literally froze solid and not moving, and they'll still pick you out, So trying to shoot one with a bow, meaning they have to almost be disinterested or looking the other way or something to get drawn and get a shot at them. We've killed a few, not a lot, but we've killed a few. And it's fun to kill one, but it usually messes up your spot. So, so we're not too.
Turns out I didn't kill a deer that day.
That's weird. And you educated a turkey.
Yeah. So.
What is that sound?
So you said that you guys did do some fall hunting, turkey hunting?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
Like before Drury Outdoors or like?
Yeah, a little bit before Drury Outdoors, and then some, Mark, out of instinct, he couldn't help himself. He had to, if there was something going on or he heard birds chirping, he was going to blow a kiki, that whistle and the kiki run and start calling them back a little bit. So and he did so much of that with his natural voice back then. Yeah. Yeah. And it was just fun to play with him. A lot of times we wouldn't even shoot one. He would just mess with them, and it was always a good time to listen to him running his natural voice.
Could
and
you
kicking.
Do that?
No.
I
just did the whistle, Yeah.
I can barely do it with a call. I really can't do it with a call.
Yeah. He did it the other day with his voice. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were just up in Iowa at the beginning, as we're filming this, the beginning of the week. And, so it's always fun when you guys get together because it's once or twice a season, really.
We missed last year, so it's been 2 years since we'd been together turkey hunting, and it was fun. I always enjoy, hunting with Mark. There's unlike anything else on this planet, turkey hunting with him is a treat. It really is. He's like Matt Van Sice or Billy Yargis or Walter Parrott, some of those guys that were Paul Butsky, those really, really expert Hall of Fame callers. Man, oh man, there's nothing like it. Sitting with them.
So what's the difference in when we talked about on the phone yesterday a little bit, but so when you're sitting there and you said like he's able to get turkeys to come in that your normal guy just can't get, to work or what is it about his style of calling that's getting them to respond differently?
His wide range of being able to do every call and then mix them together and pull them apart and assemble whatever, set of calls he wants to assemble, he can do it. They can float up and down, in and out, clucks and purrs and soft yelps, hard yelps, cut. He does it all and he mixes it. Plus he knows how to talk to them. And I think that's the difference between an average turkey caller or turkey hunter and a professional that knows the language. And he absolutely knows what they're saying. And they know what he's saying. And his yelps are so pleading, and sometimes it'll piss him off, for lack of a better term, that he'll just stay after him until finally he'll pull a gobble out of him. And he just knows when to call and when not to call. It's amazing listening to him.
So he's looking at body language.
He's hearing.
It's all hearing.
A lot of times we don't even see him. I mean, they're if they're in the timber or something, they're out of sight, 400 yards, 300 yards. But he just knows when to stop and when to call and when to close the deal, when to get more aggressive. Like early season Iowa, and it's been like this for decades because we've been hunting up there for a long time. But once they fly down and they're off the roost, you got to hammer them pretty darn hard. And from that point on, if you don't kill one early in the morning, it's almost nil the rest of the day. There's just not a lot of action the rest of the day. So you got to hammer them pretty hard, pretty early in first season. After that, it changes a little bit, and we could see it changing as the weather was warming up. But man, it got really slow after that. But boy, he's really aggressive when they're flying down, and a lot of them are on the ground and they're getting together, and they're very, very vocal this time of year. And he just knows because he's been doing it up there for so long. But it's fun to sit in front of him. I know that.
I think about that variety of calling portfolio.
Yes.
Because I can yelp okay, but there's no It's just like, hey baby, hey baby, hey baby, hey
Here
baby.
I am. Here I am. Here I am. Here I am.
I'm fat and ugly.
Sometimes it's like,
ugly.
here I am.
I got no other moves. Yeah, so throw in
Little
something to
squeaky.
change up. Yeah. But so that's where having the pot call is helpful to maybe make it sound like there are a few different birds. Do you and Mark, do you guys ever like use your hats to mimic wing flapping and scratching around?
Yeah. If you get a gobbler that's hung up, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of scratching the leaves and using the hat and all that stuff. If we got one that's close and then stop calling, and it somewhat drives them insane because they think there's a hen over there feeding, obviously. But changing up from a friction to a mouth call, I think that's a great idea.
So I'm curious. It's kind of a weird thing that we do as turkey hunters because we're sitting on the ground for a long time in the spring. One of an old buddy of mine, Ed, he passed away a few years ago. He was hunting into his 80s. Just loved turkey hunting. But he was telling me one spring he was moving away some leaves away from the base of a log, and it felt like there was he just noticed blood on his hand. He's like, what's going on with this? And then it started to hurt, and he thought maybe he had poked some barbed wire or something, and he looked closer and there was a copperhead coiled up.
Oh shit.
Up against this log, and it had tagged him. It was so fast he didn't even realize it. But I think about that when you're sitting at the base of a tree.
Well, now I will.
Leaf litter and ticks, and it's springtime. It's
ticks
warm.
For sure.
And,
yeah.
Have you come across any weird critters or?
Yeah, a lot of weird stuff. I despise ticks really, really bad because I've got
same.
Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So I say this all the time. I would rather wrestle an alligator than get bit by a tick because I just despise those things. Once you've been bit, if you've got either spotted fever or now Lyme's disease is rampant across many, many states. So you really, really have to be cognizant and watch. Years ago, we didn't even pay attention. If a tick was on you, you're like, oh yeah, a tick's on me. You may let him there for 2 or 3 days and then pull him off, because nobody even talked about Lyme's disease or spotted fever. And then once we have found out about it, now I'm just paranoid as hell.
Tim sends a lot of tick pics this time of year. A lot of tick pics.
Appreciate you enunciating on that one.
Tick pic.
Yeah.
So you talked about the odd things that you find in the woods. Didn't you also find a dead guy once?
We did.
What?
We sure did. Yeah. Yeah.
They were helping in a search, rescue situation.
And oddly enough, a buddy of ours, Steve Stoltz, everybody knows Stevie. He's out there right now with our dear friend Jerry Hale and his lovely wife Marilyn are entertaining Stevie. Jerry's not in the best of health, but he's been a long time friend. One of the first people that took us out into, and he's kind of Western Oklahoma out there, but we used to hunt with him and some of his other surrounding property owners every year. And one of the adjacent landowners that we were hunting on, he had an elderly gentleman that was hunting, and it's all day hunting out there from sun up sundown. And the guy's truck was parked there, but he didn't come out in the evening. So the landowner got really, really concerned. So we put up kind of a search party, and he was yelling for him and screaming for him. I can still hear him screaming for him to this day. And another guy by the name of Jeff Steele, who was with us back then, who was helping do a little bit of filming, and he was a firefighter there for Oklahoma City. But he and I found this guy laying dead. And he was face down. He had his shotgun over one shoulder and a turkey over the other, and he was laying flat on his. Yeah. Sure enough.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Also, that's not a bad way to go out.
I'm assuming he had probably a massive heart attack, So we did a little other digging around. I was looking around and I found another turkey under a cedar tree. So maybe he got excited when he shot 2, maybe at one time or something. I don't know, trying to get one out. But we did. We found him. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you were digging around and found his wallet.
No.
Tim.
No,
Take
Tim.
his valuables.
I don't think so, Tim.
No.
Came out of that deal $35 a head.
Oh my God. That is so sad.
Does that say more about me than you, I guess?
It says a lot less about you.
Okay.
Hold on.
What's this guy's deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll always be I would be checking.
And one other time, Mark and I were, I guess we were in Texas, and thank God it was a cold, frosty morning, but we were walking and there was a shelf of rock and we stepped down, and I swear to God, we stepped on a rattlesnake that was like 8 foot long. Fortunately, he was lethargic because it was so cold. But I mean to tell you, we jumped 4 foot straight. It was
get the blood pumping.
I'd never hunt again. I'm done.
Another ranch down in Texas, and this was many, many years ago, and I can't remember the name of the town we were in, but they told us we're the only ones in there, the only ones. We had this whole ranch to turkey hunt. And we were like, cool, this is going to be good. So we get in there and I see this guy coming at us on a three-wheeler. This is how long ago it was. He was on a three-wheeler.
Honda.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought we were the only ones in there. And they go, I don't know what the hell he's doing in here. So we stopped the guy and talked to him and say, hey, what are you up to? And he goes, I'm rattlesnake hunting. And we got rattlesnake hunting. He goes, oh yeah, I'm robbing dens. And he had a wooden box on the back of this three-wheeler, and he lifted the lid. It was full of rattlesnakes. He was robbing snake dens early in the spring before they warmed up and got out of there. And I was like, okay, if he's in here rattlesnake hunting, what are we doing here? That means there's too many of those, so let's get the hell out of here.
I wouldn't be able to ride on the three-wheeler like with that behind me, like the thought of it. I don't care if they're
lethargic. You imagine tipping on, crossing through a creek.
Yeah, especially on a three-wheeler.
He said he had been bitten 2 or 3 times, and he said a rattlesnake will bite for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only: food and fear. And he said they know they ain't going to eat a 6-foot man, so they're scared as you are. But he said the first time you think you're going to die, the second time you get bit, you wish you was dead. That's what he said. He said it got bad. If you get bit the 3rd or 4th time, evidently the body just can't take it, and the antibiotics won't clear it up. He said it's bad. Yeah. So I guess it depends. How much venom they got in them and when last time they had struck something and all that other jazz too.
Sometimes they'll bite and they won't envenomate.
Right.
Because it's their ammo. They don't want to waste it if they.
This guy looks like a pussy.
I'm just gonna
scare him,
gum him a little bit,
give him a little bite.
Yeah.
I'm not real crazy about them either.
Yeah, but this early warm up, at least I know we're having in Missouri.
Yeah, we got away from your turkey talk.
we are doing a show here.
I actually prefer this talk.
Rattlesnake talk?
No, well, not that.
I don't know that I've seen the woods as green as they are right now. As early in the season, it's really something. Like it's starting to impact how far you can see, how deep you can see, how sound travels, and everything. So I'm curious, like, what do you think could do to the turkey hunting?
There's 2 things. One, I've not seen breeding, and we're full onboard breeding as early as we're seeing turkey it this breeding? Year. Yes. Okay. I think John Williams sent us a picture, and in that photo the other day, there's 2 hens that are laying down and 2 gobblers on top of them in the same photo. Dude. And that's rare to see it to begin with. But all this stuff has happened much earlier than it typically does. So it could affect it later. And if you've been turkey hunting for any period of time at all, once those woods green up and it gets solid, the gobbling goes to nothing and the calling really sucks. And it's just, there's a slow period in there where their world changes. They've been used to seeing 500 yards in the timber. Yep. Now they can see 50. And I think it really does affect how you hunt them and how the turkey responds. So you've got to be closer to them. You got to use a little bit softer calling. You got to be a little more cognizant about staying put and them coming in hush mouth. Okay. I think that happens pretty frequently when the foliage starts getting full like that. It's just a whole different realm of calling. Now, if you can get him hot, and kind of work him in, that's what we're talking about, Mark's calling. If you can get him fired up, and get them to where they can't help themselves, they got to come in. But oftentimes I recall, especially late season, when you get a hot turkey, he'll stand there at 50 yards just on the other side of the green stuff and he won't commit. And that happens often. So then you're belly crawling or you're doing something trying to get them. But it's a chess match when it gets late season, and we may hit that phase earlier than normal.
Great.
Yeah. So you might as well just quit.
Hang it up.
Well,
I'm good. Yeah. No
little do you know, I'm not going to go.
I'll show them. I'll buy my tag and not go.
Conservation. Hashtag
That's
conservation.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't remember who it was we had on the show, but they had a great perspective that kind of changed my thinking around gobbling. In that, also every time a turkey gobbles, they're saying to coyotes or any other predator, "Hey, here I am."
Yes.
Bobcats and foxes, and so there's a liability there with that every time they do that. And if they have decreased visibility of what's around them, they can no longer rely on their eyesight as much to keep that perimeter open.
Have you ever noticed that it seems like their gobbles get more quiet, a less volume, not only just because of the foliage, but it doesn't seem to me like they gobble as loud or as hard in the latter part of the season as they do in the first part of the season.
I feel like
they're trying to throw that gobble out there for a mile or half mile when there's no foliage. And then all of a sudden when there's foliage on, I think they're wary to what you were saying there. I think the gobbles, not only does the foliage suck it up, but I just don't think they gobble as hard. Now, the other thing, late season, when the foliage is like that, if we do have an early spring and they're laying, boy, they're a different animal when that hen is not with them. They are so much easier to kill when they don't have a hen with them. One hen will screw up a bunch of turkeys, but when she goes and starts either laying or setting, once those hens start setting, it's an altogether different game. Those gobblers are much easier to hunt.
We watched it last weekend on the youth season. We were with Cameron there, and we had 3 longbeards that were hot, gobbling, gobbling. And finally, a hen popped up out of nowhere, and she laid down in front of us in the shade. And finally, she got up. They didn't come over. Finally, she got up and walked over to the neighbor's property, and I could see the longbeards. They literally just shut up and start following her. All 3 of them just start following her. It's like, God dang it. You don't get to see it often, but you know that's what's going on.
You saw that you got cut off.
Yeah.
And you wonder, you're sitting there, did they see us? No, they didn't see you. They saw her. Yeah. You're right.
Well,
to your point.
At this point, I have this like a sense memory now of sitting in a blind. It's early May. It's like mid-morning. It's hot. And I've heard a few gobbles off the roost, but then nothing. And then all of a sudden there's just a gobbler in the decoys. He just showed up and I'm like, ooh, I got to do something about this.
They never made a peep.
Yeah. But just almost the doldrums of that time where it's so quiet and you have to keep intentionally reminding yourself turkeys exist. They're out there.
Last week is historically really feels like it's really tough to hunt them in that last week of the season. It's almost like they just are done, they're just kind of worn themselves out by then.
We just change our style when we get into that latter part, meaning we soften the calling up. We don't throw it out there quite as hard, quite as far. If you do strike one, we may move towards him and then we may sit down and just kind of quit. But we may throw those, we may go to just a series of clucks instead of yelping, where you're not going to do that general assembly of it might just be a cluck or two and they might be soft and he may come in, he may not, but when they do, they're coming hush mouth. So we change our strategy completely from the early part of the season to the latter part of the season.
Does it change your decoy sets?
A little bit. We switch up as the season goes, but we've had such tremendous luck with that Jake and the hen. We use a lay down hen, we'll use a feeder, or we'll use a Jake and a lookout. But typically we'll have a lay down, a feeder, and a Jake. And it's been so successful for us. Early part of the season, it works really good because those strutters can't stand it. They come barreling in there. And we've had pretty good luck where there's 3 and 4 gobblers, man. When they spot that Jake on him, they're immediately on him. They just come to him. Latter part of season, much the same. If those hens are setting and you can find a gobbler that's by himself, if he spots a Jake with a lay down, he's coming,
I don't know if you guys even have the answer to this, but it just struck me. Why 3? Why so often when you see a group of gobblers like Jakes, you could have 6 or you could have a herd of them. But why? What's the magic number about 3 toms?
Oddly enough, we were up in Iowa. He's talking about this hunt from day before yesterday. We had 2 birds that were gobbling, and then we had 3 over here, and we got between them, and the 2 that we had struck quit. They just quit gobbling. And I'm going to make a long story real short. The 2 that we were working got with the 3 that that we had heard, but they weren't exactly coming. And then all of a sudden it was bow, 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 bow. Then all 5 of them came.
Oh.
The 5 got together. The day before that, it was 4. Yeah. So it isn't always 3 is my point.
Huh. What happened the day before?
I don't know. We didn't get one. Swing and a miss.
Hunt in the yard.
Yeah.
He was too close.
He was too close. I said, how'd Mark do on that? Because that's always your fear when you miss one is not like you're already upset yourself, but your real fear is what's Mark going to say?
No pressure.
He knew I wasn't happy with myself because I took my walkers. I took it out on them. I took my walkers off and slammed them down. I was so pissed at me. It's not even funny, but we sat there for 3 hours in one position, and it was cold. It was in the 20s, and we had a 15-mile-an-hour wind.
Ooh,
and I didn't dress near warm enough, even though I had on what I thought was plenty. But we got a little chilled, so I was shaking a little bit. I had to pee from 2 cups of coffee. So I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you've had to go to the bathroom in the turkeys. We had 2 jakes on the decoys
Just
for
pee your pants.
an eternity.
Cool.
I wasn't far from that. But it was one of those mornings, and then Mark did finally get the gobblers in there, and I missed one at 11 steps, 12 steps. Yeah.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, it was.
Which, has challenges of its own.
And I forgot the poundage on the trigger on that particular gun. It was a little heavy. So when I pulled, it didn't go off,
You were expecting it to.
I was,
hit a little
and shame
sooner.
on me. God, they weren't going nowhere. I had plenty of time to settle in, but when it don't go, and then and that's exactly what I did. I just whiffed it.
I did that same thing
Pulled.
last year. We went to my buddy Tony's lease up in northern Missouri, and I was borrowing Allen's Winchester, that 20 gauge, that turkey gun, and
it's a pretty stiff trigger.
Well, yeah, and I'm on the bird. I'm pulling through the shot, and I literally moved because I expect, and I was like, oh, I got to restart this whole process, and then got back on the bird. I think had I went through with the initial, I probably would have missed.
That was the problem. I didn't restart the process. I should have. They weren't going nowhere. They're into the decoys. All I had to do was just start over, and aim. And
but the good news is the fault was the guns. It wasn't yours. It wasn't mine. It was.
No, it was my fault because I should have been prepared for that. We killed a lot of turkeys with it. I just forgot how hard that pull was. And it's probably a 10 or 12 pound trigger.
Oh, that's pretty stiff.
And some of our center fires are 2.5 pounds or 2, where they do surprise you. This one didn't surprise you. It surprised you because it didn't go off. Yeah.
Anytime now. The complicating factor there is like when the circumstances are even that much more challenging. Like, I gotta pee. It's cold. We've been here for a long time. Mark's here. Like,
that's the one.
And then it doesn't come together.
Well, and he worked him literally for 3 hours. I mean, it wasn't like this came right off the roost. The jakes came in and did their deal, and that was an hour on the decoy. So we were motionless. We were sitting on the ground. We weren't in a blind or none of that shit. So it was a long time sitting in one position, having to pee and cold, to your point.
That's the nice part where like that brotherly love comes out and Mark's like, hey, brother, we'll go get him again.
No, he didn't say that.
Really?
The good part is up there, that you're going to get another chance. Pretty typically you have a good feeling. I mean, they just are so dialed in on everything up there.
He is.
How were the numbers? As far as
they're pretty good there. They're pretty good. Yeah. Now what we didn't see many jakes, which is a little disturbing, but they had an ample supply of longbeards.
Okay. But he'll manage. I mean, he's talked about this. He'll manage it almost like a deer herd. So they know where they saw jakes. They write that stuff down. They know where they killed birds. So he's got that luxury of not having to overhunt a certain spot.
Yes. And they keep accurate information and really keep a lot of data on how many they see, and they will not overhunt an area. They'll take a bird out and then they may not hunt it again. They'll go to another area, take another bird, and so on and so forth. He's very careful about managing his turkeys.
Well, I know the perspectives that people have on just the population at large are very much driven by their own personal experiences. And during youth season, I heard more birds at this one spot that we hunted than I've ever heard in my entire life at that spot.
Oh, wow.
So, take that for what you will, at least for that little part of St. Louis County. Things are looking pretty good.
And I think MDC said that we had a pretty good hatch last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the weather
which
was
we've
good.
been aggressive on the coons and possums, been doing a lot of trapping over the last several years. And our turkey population, we see the results of the effort. We really do. It was almost instantaneous. I mean, that first year when we started trapping, there were a lot of turkeys that made it.
How many predators you guys think you pulled off your piece?
Several hundred. Yeah. That first year was, I want to say 170 or 170 coons or something. We were catching 8 or 10 a night. It was crazy.
Golly.
But it had been years. Nobody hunts them anymore. Nobody really, the hides aren't worth much. So
if you think about it too, before they banned it, the amount of supplemental feeding you guys were doing, it was a lot. You know, when you first bought the farm.
Yeah.
And we know just from the trail cam pictures, like how many coons end up going to that stuff. It's almost like you raised them without keeping them in check.
Right.
And then once you guys started, it totally changed the dynamic.
Yes.
Because there were some years there where the turkey hunting sucked at your farm.
It was awful. We hunted the same 4 or 5 gobblers for 4 or 5 years.
Ooh.
We weren't killing them. Yeah. It got really, really bad for a number of years there. And that has changed, and I do believe a big part of that, one, because of the hatch, and 2, because of the predators that we've taken out. Those nest predators.
Burn, since forest, I know you used to do that a little bit here and there, but like with forest, it's every year. You guys, he really keeps a lot of that in check.
And our warm seasons are the result of that burning as well. They look really good.
A lot of better habitat. For the hatch.
He got hammered on a piece. Did you see that viral piece?
The social team was telling me about it this week in one of our email chains. We got going back and forth because the video went viral of it was a time lapse that Ben Stallman shot with a drone of Forrest doing a burn at Terry's.
I don't think I've
he's using a drip torch. He goes around the outside, and they'd done the back burn, and they had all their fire lines cut and all that. And this piece might have been an acre, maybe. It was a really small piece, but from the drone, it looked like it was 20 or 40 acres. It looked like a big piece of ground.
It was a cool shot.
It was a great shot. And you just see it after he, runs a drip torch all the way around. It just literally stifles itself. And they got hammered because they said we trapped all the wildlife and it couldn't get out. I'm not lying. Like, the negative comments are.
It went to, as of a couple of days ago, it was already at like 6.5 million views.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Were these a lot of like international?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Watching it.
I don't know. When I saw it, I was like, that is badass.
Well, yeah,
it was
awesome.
like textbook. I was like, that is perfect burning.
Because I mentioned to the girls, I'm like, if it did that well, we should put it over on the YouTube channel and, on shorts or whatever.
Get
like,
hammered over there.
They're like, well, that's when they said, they're like, well, we get a lot of negative feedback. I'm like, that's people that don't understand what you're doing there, I think, which is a lot of Facebook.
Yeah, it reminds me of Crocodile Dundee, where they try to push him out of the bad country. You ever light a grassland on fire and just chase a snake out? Like they were trying to smoke him out.
I just watched that the other day.
Oh yeah,
both of them.
Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
That I haven't seen it in 20 years, but that always stuck with me.
Now that's a knife.
That's the one I like.
I've got a donk.
She goes, be careful. He's got a knife. He goes, that's not a knife. And he pulls it. He goes, now that's a knife.
Yeah. I love that.
The kids loved it. I don't know where we were. It was raining or something. We were stuck in the house, and I was like, "Oh,
that's a great one." Yeah,
they loved it.
Yeah, so. Last year I introduced the kids to the Great Outdoors with John Candy.
We love that one.
And Bo's favorite part were the raccoons.
Yeah, talking when they're talking.
Yeah. So great.
Yeah.
The guy's been hit 66 times. 66 times.
It's like 666.
It was a lot. He got cranked.
That reminded me of Ernie Calandrelli's Bible salesman.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's a good joke.
It's a great joke, but Ernie needs the one to tell it.
Yeah. We haven't had Ernie on in a while. We need to have the Hall of Famer on.
He would be happy to do it, I'll bet.
I was like, real close. I might bring it on. He sent me a wingbone call last year, and the kids have actually picked it up too, much to Beth's chagrin. Hearing them like boop 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 around the house with
Your
that,
trumpet call.
with that thing.
We heard a turkey the other day, a hen that sounded like a wing bone. That's the first one I've ever heard that actually sounded like a wing bone, but it did.
Yeah, to me, like when you get the cadence right, then you're like, okay, that makes sense. Otherwise, you got to use your imagination
Pretty heavily.
But
Jim Cassidy the outdoor writer used to bring a wing bone every year and blow it, and Mark would go, oh, geez.
Here we go. Mr. Wingbone.
I don't know if you knew this, but if you don't have a wing bone call, you're not a real turkey hunter. So, Tim,
whoa, I finally
despite
made
the
it.
fact you can't call very well and you don't kill much, you're more of a turkey hunter than we are.
Yeah. Appreciate all those caveats. You didn't need to say them, but appreciate.
I got a box call. I got a friction call. I got a mouth call. I got a wing bone.
What are the little
push button?
Push button.
Yeah, the push button.
That's what I learned when I was a kid. That's, I don't know, I guess Matt maybe had a push
and
button.
I think Harold and David kind of originated that. They came out with the fighting purr. I don't know if you remember that. You remember the fighting
Was it
purr?
a plastic box?
Yeah. But Harold and David perfected that, and they sold a lot of them.
The one that
Night and Hail.
Matt had was a wooden one, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But
and it was good.
Yeah,
it ran well. Yeah. Ran pretty good.
Yeah, Ray I gave me one a long time ago, and Sophie grabs all, like, she takes my stuff.
Hit her.
She
Slap her.
Shove her
Aren't they
down.
supposed to?
they kind of do.
Guess what? It's only going to get worse. She's going to take your car, your money.
Yeah,
Where
I was
are
gonna
my
say,
AirPods?
Your stuff just gets bigger.
Your hope.
Out the window. It's gone. Yeah. But no, she took it, and Beth's like, what is that noise? And it kind of sounded more like a cricket when she was using it. But yeah. Practicing.
It's interesting to us, having been in the industry for so many years, to hear a hen and then try and identify what call it sounds the most like. And Ricky Joe Bishop, who's been so instrumental in developing calls, has developed a lot of different ones. And we heard a hen the other day. He had like a tube type of call that had a unique sound. And we heard a hen the other morning that sounded like that. And then we had another hen that sounded like the call you were just talking about. So for us sitting there, and Mark and I get to talk about it as we're hearing it, we're like, oh, boy, that sounds like that call Ricky did, or that sounds like Harold and David's, or that sounds like such and such,
Cuz always talks about a tube call that he has or likes a lot.
Tad blows
might be
a tube call that. Do you ever hear that? Mark hates that thing too.
Terry, what do you think about gobbler calls and their effectiveness and safety? And
if somebody could ever develop one that was really, really, really accurate and sounded like a gobbler, I think they'd be extremely effective, especially later part of season. Damn right.
Huh.
Yeah. But you don't hear a lot of them that are real, that sound exactly like a gobbler.
I was going to say, I've never heard someone that can.
There's a
do
few,
it well.
and there's a few guys out there that can gobble on the mouth call, but I have not heard many that sound really, really, accurate and precise and, a perfect rendition.
Well, and the other thing is with some of the gobbler calls out there are not many that you can run with dignity.
This is true.
Kind of like the rack jack.
It may work, but
I was gonna emulate that call that Ricky did, but I decided not to here.
Don't use your hand motions.
Yeah.
Just self-filtering.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But we heard a hen that sounded just like it.
Moving on.
Yeah. And it's fun for Mark and I to sit there and listen, man. Those mornings now, we appreciate them so much differently than we appreciated them back in the day. Because back in the day, you just took it in,
Oh, sure.
Now there's a whole new appreciation because we understand kind of what's happening, and listening to the woods wake up, you hear this and you hear that, whether it be a woodpecker, an owl, or screech owl, a barred owl, and everything is just so much different when crows start or pheasants. We heard a lot of pheasants the other morning. And oddly enough, a lot of those pheasants would not get a gobble to answer, but, an owl somewhere way off that, starts to laugh or whatever, then all of a sudden, they start chiming in. So it's interesting what gets them to shock gobble in the mornings. But it's just a whole new appreciation as you get older.
I saw some online footage of pheasant running across the field, and it's always shocking to me to remind myself that's an invasive species.
What? Really?
That's an invasive species.
Thank you, Tim.
What is?
Pheasants.
Really?
They were imported from Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we
They're
about
not
cleared
native.
them all out, so there's not a whole lot left.
Yeah, geez. I mean, just between when my dad was growing up and when I was growing up, they literally keep a shotgun behind their truck seat at high school.
Well, we did in the glass,
And then-
in the back glass. Everybody had
Yeah,
it.
and then after high school, him and his buddies would drive out to just walk the fence rows and stuff, and farmers didn't care, and they'd shoot a few baby quail, pheasant, and that just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's getting better.
I will say, since we've been doing that burning that we were talking about, our pheasant population has done much better as well. We're starting to hear and see more pheasants, and
good.
Mark too, man. Because they've done so much as far as their native grasses, whether it be high blue, cold season, warm season, they're doing a lot of burning as well, and their pheasant population, because they don't hunt them, is much better as well.
Isn't it funny how the species that you care about, like that's all you care about, but then some other guys like, I would die to come hunt. You got pheasants all over the place. I would die to come hunt that.
So it's, I guess, attrition by default in a certain sense.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Meaning our population is increasing, and yet we're, by doing the burning, we've improved the habitat. And same way with turkeys, and I think it's helped a lot of different, quail and so on and so forth. I think just by
I definitely seen
default
more quail. I don't know last time I saw pheasant in the wild though. I mean, I'll every once in a while you'll see a covey of quail kind of bust out when walking into your set or something like that. But
and boy, they used to be plentiful when we were in high school. There was quail everywhere, and you just don't see it. But I do believe a lot of the farming practices have changed the nesting habitat, as far as fence rows and stuff.
Yeah.
And ditches and what have you. They've taken a lot of that out.
Yeah, the edge habitat was really critical for them.
Mm-hmm.
But my friends over in Southern Illinois, they're seeing on some of the ground that I hunt, they're seeing some pheasants every now and again.
Surprising me because over in Illinois, it seems like there's nothing left. It seems like it's just one big flat. They've taken everything. All
they do a lot of
fences,
farming.
all timber out.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, for sure.
Well, they're trying to farm as many square feet as they can because the input costs are so high, equipment's so high, and sprays and chemicals. So I get it.
HS Strut and the DoD Signature Series of calls puts the sound of spring at your fingertips. From the first owl hoots of the morning to the last quiet clucks and purrs in the moment of truth. Be ready for any calling situation the turkey woods can throw at you with HS Strut.
Hey, our buddy Ethan gave us a shout out. Thank you, Ethan. He said, great podcast, guys. Love all the information on the guests that you have on. Keep playing that soundboard. Ethan,
okay, Ethan, we're going to have to talk about that.
He's kind of a dick.
Oh,
It's a new one from Wade.
Was that Wade?
there was shrinkage.
That's what she said.
Oh,
That
God.
was Tim. Ethan likes the soundboard, Terry. Just giving the people what they want.
We need to do a poll and find out what the mass really wants, whether they want the soundboard or not want the soundboard. What's the percentage?
I'm pretty sure it's pretty high.
Our Amish listeners
That don't want it?
That love it.
Oh, come on now, Matt.
Yeah, our Amish listeners, they love the soundboard.
They do. I've had several tell me.
Serious?
I swear to you.
Yep.
All 5 of them?
Well, I mean, the mass, you didn't clarify how many listeners we have.
Yeah, a certain number.
It's a high percentage of the number of listeners we have.
We assume. Yeah. We're
So
going to
let's somehow get that poll started and see whether or not to eliminate
That's
the
easy.
soundboard.
In the rack pack, we could just put up a poll.
get sound off,
All right,
right,
there we go.
packers.
Yeah.
Let us know. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where the soundboard is going to be a bunch of clips that we've sampled of Matt and I on the show to where Matt and I don't have to talk on an actual show. He can just be pushing
Well,
buttons.
with AI, I don't know
That's
that
called
we
a
actually
recording.
need to be on the show anymore.
Hey. We get
Okay.
some cardboard
AI
cutouts.
can take our voice. These guys could put all of the video clips and sound clips in, and it could probably create its own podcast.
3D map our faces.
Yeah,
and,
can't get any worse.
We used to have cardboard cutouts. I don't know what happened to
There's
them, but they
somewhere.
pop up every once in a while. You
Yeah.
can find them somewhere.
Yeah, I think I gave Jason Lurk his
Yeah.
son I think Braxton.
They had them at a Halloween
Yeah.
party.
That's right. Nice.
Anyhow, Tim, what's next, buddy?
The real wild clip. We were talking about spring weather a little bit ago, and we've had quite a bit of rain here and
Some flooding.
yeah, some flooding. So let's take a look at that.
All right.
Real wild clip. the side of the road. I think this is coming to us from our buddy Scott McCoy in the Rack Pack and some floodwaters. This may be down in Arkansas. I think that those are his stomping grounds. But these gobblers are fighting. They're necking each other.
Don't say necking each other.
Why, does that mean something else in some other
It just
parlance?
doesn't sound good.
They're just going to town. And then there's another guy off to the right there just kind of pecking away through the vegetation. But this is on the shoulder of a highway.
So that where they're kind of crossed up like that with their necks, that reminds me, we at the house there, for whatever reason, every spring in May, we'll have black snakes around our house. Lot, like 5-6 foot long, like decent sized black snakes. And when Lola was little, she walked out of the garage and she walked over to the yard, and I think Miranda was outside. She's like, "Look, Mom, snakes are fighting or whatever." And they were 2 of them locked up, I guess mating.
They ain't fighting.
Yeah. And, and looked like a 2-headed snake there. It looked just like those 2 turkeys. It was kind of an eerie looking.
That's disturbing for a kid.
It was like 3 feet
or
away
a grown
from her.
man that's afraid of snakes.
I wasn't going to say it, but we no longer have snakes.
Kill them all. We burned that house down.
No, great. Now I'm going to have everybody like, "You don't kill black snakes." I'm aware of this. I know that.
My favorite are anyone that sees a snake near water. That's a water. That's a cottonmouth. That's a water moccasin. It's venomous. Every single person.
We see a lot of them down at the lake.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And they do look like a cottonmouth or whatever, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just a water snake.
Yeah. I caught one last night. They have a nasty temperament. They will just continue to try to bite you over and over again.
Really?
Why are you every time I look at Tim's social media, he's like holding a lizard or a snake. That guy's a reptilian.
Yeah.
You're what Alex Jones is warning us against.
It's all I have in life. When I die, people are going to say, "Well, he could catch a snake."
Catch a snake.
So weird.
We saw Chris Werner do that with a copperhead down at Pearl Mine Dam. We were working down there and he caught it.
Yeah, that's... I would not probably do that with a venomous snake because you get yourself hurt.
Seems silly.
It's an unnecessary risk. But like if a water snake bites you, just like a pinch.
Really?
No big deal.
The copperhead gets you. It's like he said.
Fingers are swelling
First
up.
time you think you're going to die. He said second time you wish you were dead.
Yeah, I don't need that. But it makes me feel like a real man. I think that's the end all of it.
Sportsman Channel is your home for Winchester and Drury's natural born. Join the cast with some of the most hard-hitting action on outdoor TV. See the full schedule at thesportsmanchannel.com.
Okay, this week's Take It or Leave It. So this is one where Jim gives us kind of a scenario, then we decide, is that cool or not so cool?
All right, so take it or leave it. It is this. All right. We're taking the bottom of the barrel here. Snacking in the blind or stand. Take it or leave it. I mean,
I am diametrically opposed to it.
Okay, so Terry, was it this past fall? I was with you guys. Maybe it was me and Cam hunting. And I pull out snacks. I got like a First Form protein stick, and I got something for him. And
OCP?
These guys are like, "Oh, we don't ever bring snacks." Like it was a badge of honor.
Surprising to me.
And I thought to myself, like, every time I've ever had a snack since I was Cameron's age, this guy here, first guy taking it, steals it every time.
Dad tax.
Yeah. So he's real proud that he doesn't think ahead to bring a snack. But if you have a snack, he's eating it. Oh, and during the turkey hunt this weekend, you did the same thing with Cameron. We pull out, some snacks, and he even mentioned, he's like, where's those protein sticks you always have?
He's got that stupid voice going.
Yeah. I'm a dad.
This is hitting kind of close to me because my kids have learned they bring their own snacks because dad's not going to pack any. And then maybe I'll take some.
I don't know how y'all do it. I mean, I'm a fat kid at heart. I'm packing snacks I could be going on a half-hour trip. There's going to be a snack in the bag just in case something bad happens.
Forrest and I guess, have been hunting
Here we go.
8 years together. We've never taken
serious.
a snack. But if somebody's got snacks,
Ah.
why we're going to eat it.
Help yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's community
Especially if
snacks.
it's your ground.
yeah.
Yeah.
My blinds, my ground. Yeah.
Well, he was hunting with me this weekend and he was still.
Yeah, that's a
eating
little bit
snacks. So,
forward.
yeah. So take it or leave it, Terry. You take it or do you leave it? Do you snack in the blind or the stand?
Nope. Nope.
Bull.
Nope.
That is such a lie.
I will if it's there.
That's a take it. Then.
No. No.
yeah, right.
So,
But I'm not going to take snacks. No, never. Ever. Now, if Yapper's with us, he's always got snacks. If you're there, you always got snacks. We know who the fat kids are.
Tommy, when you hunt with Tommy,
He
he'll
brings a
bring
cooler.
and it's like a charcuterie board.
Whoa,
I'm not even
fancy.
lying.
He's
It's
not
always
lying.
fancy snacks.
Dang.
Yeah,
It's snacks. It's you name it, he's got it.
cashews and this and that.
He may have bacon and eggs in there. You never know.
Mine's conditional. Mine is all about the wrapper that it's in. I hunted with a buddy one time and they brought a thing. We're in a ground blind, and it was a plastic container of grapes. And just like opening the thing.
Oh.
This is during deer season.
Oh.
And it was just stupid loud. It's like, help a guy out here.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt him.
So take it or leave it. Snacks.
I will take it if the
Somebody else brings
the
it.
snacks, somebody else brings them, and they're not stupid loud.
You guys suck. It's
Yep.
a total take it, and any snacks go.
Uh-huh.
I like to have the first one protein sticks or I will say the protein bars. The wrappers are loud, like you're talking about.
Yep.
And if I'm desperate, I will have some sort of Little Debbie.
What about a drink?
Never. I have water. I mean, I just have a bottle of water in the
Yep.
pack. But like you see a lot of guys that are packing Mountain Dews or, I'll in turkey season, I'll throw a First Farm Energy in my pack. But the problem is once you open it, or like during the rut.
Yeah.
But once you open it, you gotta drink all of it. So like that's
You're committing to it at
and
that point.
like I've said many times, like I usually drink about a third of an energy drink and I'm wired. So
There was one really, really cold hunt, and I'm always out of a tree stand when I'm hunting. A few years ago, where I packed a Stanley full of like hot cocoa or something, and to have a hot drink on a cold day, it's such a high level of it. Just picks your spirits up and keeps you out
a
there.
guy that would like pack chili in a Stanley or like
Yeah, I
a chicken
don't know.
noodle soup or something.
That's a meal.
It seems like that's what I'm getting at. It seems like you would be that kind of guy.
No, I just go hungry.
Well, true.
Like literally, I'll just go hungry and then come home and just absolutely ravage the refrigerator. Pantry.
That's what I do.
If you've ever hunted with Aaron Bennett, like right around Halloween, it's a real treat.
That candy?
It's a gallon Ziploc bag
Because of his kids.
Well, it's before
I'm
he
sure he
had
robs
kids.
it.
Before he had kids.
There's
Oh.
no excuse.
I mean, hunting when he was filming for
Yeah.
us, I mean, he would have a giant bag of candy at all times. So
You asked about a drink. I've told this story on numerous occasions, but when we were younger, our mom would send a half pint of wine when we were 11 and 12.
yeah.
But we always had a high power rifle, a full box of shells, and a half pint of wine.
let's
You know,
get
when
after
you're
it.
when you're
Have
12
wine
years
will
when you're
roll.
12 years old, when you got to like 13, 14, she'd send a pint of wine.
So what do you get now?
Take a gallon. and it's actually vodka.
Disclaimer: he's joking for the kids.
I am joking. I'm joking. We do that when we get back to camp.
say that. Did you
But
hear what
Mom
Terry
did do
Drury
that
said?
when we were little. She would send that wine with us because that's how they grew up on a farm.
Could you imagine sending Sophie, Cameron, Bo?
Yeah, we were by
Lola.
ourselves.
Sophie would call like family services on me if I did that.
My
She-
dad's forcing me to drink, and I have a gun.
Come quick.
Yeah, think about that. We had a high-powered, it was a 30-30 lever action, a full box of shells, and either a half pint or a pint of
Why a
wine.
full box? Well, I mean, how many
You
things are you
never-
going to
you
shoot
never
at?
know.
You getting in a war
Wild
with these
West.
deer? You were lucky to see a deer back then.
Yes.
Like, you need just a couple
Oh,
bullets.
we saw a lot of them after.
We don't have to go too far into this. I don't remember. Was the wine to help
Warm you
keep
up.
you warm?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Warm you up.
Okay.
He's not a drinker, so he doesn't know, guys.
Yeah. But that was that back
I'm sure
then.
you've had a church wine, though, right?
We're not Catholic.
Oh, they don't do that every church? Oh, you're missing out.
Yeah, grape juice.
That's the reason to go.
Crappy grape juice.
That's pretty much what church wine is. And it's got a lot of people's saliva.
Yeah, that part.
Well,
not
yeah, as a
appealing.
kid, you're thinking, just get some wine. But then as you get a little older, you're like, wait a second. Everybody's drinking from it, and all the priest is doing is just like, he's just wiping it with the same cloth. It seems
over and over and
I know,
over.
it seems
Yeah.
like
The old country buffet.
COVID kind of
shut her down.
Shut that down. Curtailed that a little bit.
Maybe one of the positive things that came out of that.
Perhaps.
Terrible.
All right, we've got no new Rack Pack members apparently, so no
Well,
one.
we
to
just
welcome.
shot a show like 2 days ago, so give the people some time to get in there.
Oh, they're not rushing to get in.
Surprisingly, no.
All that hot turkey hunting information coming right at
There
you.
was some quality info there in the beginning before we got into the wine talk.
Yeah,
It was snake talk.
snake talk, wine talk. What else? we got
Rattlesnakes.
here?
Yeah. I think we've covered it, Tim.
Oh yeah, and then some. We
Let's see. Let's real quick recap. Terry missed a turkey just this week in Iowa. Mark's calling still great. Terry killed a turkey in Iowa because Mark's calling's great. Let's see. We talked about rattlesnakes. We talked about timber rattlers. Don't brush leaves away with your hand. Use your boot.
If you're going to get bit, you might as well get bit on the
someone
foot.
else do it.
Take it or leave it. I like snacks. I pack snacks. Tim and Terry eat the snacks. They're snack elitists.
On principle.
Okay. What else did we cover? I think that's
Covered our good buddy Jerry Hale out in Oklahoma.
Terry found a dead. Terry sees
Frisking a
dead
dead
people.
body.
So
Yeah, we did find a dead guy.
rest in peace. We talked about 2 dead people. You mentioned a dead guy. So
Coming up next week, more dead guy talk on the 100% Wild
I think
podcast.
we've covered it all. We talked about some decoy strategy, some calling strategy, early versus
Talked
late
about
season.
Fred
Fred's
a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it all.
Well, I'm glad people stuck around for the summary. They're like,
Usually you get it at the beginning of the show.
yeah, because they're like, you know what? That is what they talked about.
Shut it off.
I stuck around for this summary.
Just like the YouTube hunts, like they stop at the kill. Where do you think they stop at the podcast?
Probably, I think this one maybe 5 or so minutes
When
in.
they goes, "What's up, everybody?"
Oh, this crap again.
Welcome back. Click.
Heard it.
All right, we've had enough. I think we should be done for
Yeah,
today.
let's do it. All
Terry,
right. Well,
any closing thoughts for
Absolutely. I want everybody to identify their target and be safe. There's far too many injuries during turkey season from people getting shot. So make sure everybody identifies their target.
That's right.
100%.
Be safe.
Have a good turkey season, everybody. See you
Till
next time.
Peace out.
DeerCast is completely updated and better than ever. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck with our detailed maps, weather, and 14-day movement predictor.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.